Hello. Welcome to the second episode already. Um, I'm back. It's been like 5 days, 4 days. But yeah, I enjoyed the first one, so I'm just kind of gonna keep going and seeing how everything goes. So, first little thing. I mean, if you clicked on this episode, or I probably sent it to you if you're listening to this currently. You see the new logo. This was Devin, my friend, designed this for me. We went through a couple rounds of working through it, but I think it's awesome and it's the vibe that I was going for. I think the title being Dead Soon, um, kind of can give off a little bit of like a harsher, like super serious vibe. Um, so I was trying to make it so the logo is kind of a little bit of the opposite, and it's a little bit like goofier. Just because like the idea of dead soon isn't just like, oh my gosh, like I could die tomorrow, so like life sucks. It's more like, oh, I could die tomorrow, like so whatever, like we'll see, you know. But yeah, life update. My internship ended yesterday, so I'm free from the packed schedule, which is nice. I'll have a like 2 weeks of summer left, which is nice. Internship was good. It was it was a lot. My schedule was pretty crazy, but very good experience. It was the whole like corporate environment, commuting to the city kind of vibe. And yeah, it was good overall. Definitely enjoyed. Met some awesome people, like so many. Like I was not expecting to get so friendly with all the people in it. My group, we had a little group project. Like our group, we were all so close. Like everyone was awesome. Um, I guess next I'll just kind of talk about like big picture, like what's I don't really know. I feel like I'm kind of in the same spot of just like we'll figure it out. Want to get the reps in. I do want to do an interview within the next couple. It's going to be definitely just someone I'm very familiar with. Don't know who it's going to be, but I also need to figure out the microphone stuff because I currently have a microphone that just works with me. Like I don't know. It's annoying. But basically, I need to get different microphones if I want to do two people. So I'm gonna try to do two people with this mic just to test. I know you're not supposed to do that, but I'll see if it's noticeable. Then I obviously won't do it. But yeah, I want to get reps in. I want to try that out. Like obviously, I want to try that out before I just go and like splurge and like get the mics. I need to get a mic. Need to get a mixer. All that stuff. But yeah, like I'd ideally want to get some like people I'm familiar with, get some reps on those interviews because I've not really done interviews before. Um, and then try to get other guests. Don't really know what that really means, but once again, we'll just figure it out. But yeah, then going back to school in 2 weeks. Very excited to get back. Very excited to see Jules. Very excited to see my friends. I love being at school. It's been amazing. My 4 years, 3 years is gonna be my fourth. Amazing so far. I'm expecting it to be fantastic again. And then lastly, 50 days until my race, which is pretty exciting. I had a decent training run today, and then tomorrow I'll have my big one for the week. But yeah, overall, life's good. Everything's good. I'm grateful to be where I'm at. Life is treating me well. I'm excited to get back to school. I'm blessed. And yeah, why don't I get into the episode topic of the day? So right now, it probably seems like the topics are a little all over the place, and that's kind of the point. I kind of want this to just be like I can just turn on the mic and talk about whatever I want. Um, and this was a topic that definitely I felt it's something that I want to talk about because it's such a complicated, long topic, and I think this one like I'm looking for good solo episode topics, and I think this is a topic that no one else really has my perspective at all because it's something that I went through. That made it sound so serious, but all right, so the concept is just soccer. I've always kind of been known as like the soccer guy, and like at school, it'd be like, oh my gosh, like you play soccer. Like, yeah, I've just always kind of been the soccer guy associated with it, loved soccer. But I think my relationship with soccer evolved a lot over the years, and I think now it's in a weird spot. But I'll get into it. Um, The general topic, though, is kind of falling out of love with soccer, as sad as it is to say, because it was always something that I loved so much. But yeah, first kind of chapter of this will be youth soccer. So there's not as much to say here, but I think it's a good foundation. My youth soccer spanning basically from age, I think, 5 or 6, when basically everyone played and you kind of were just like the beehive chasing the ball, good times, up until right before high school, like high school or freshman year will be like the second chapter. But yeah, I mean, there was just so many happy memories, amazing coaches, lifelong bonds with friends. Like, it's crazy to think that I'm still friends with most of the people that I play with, and I like talk to them every week. Like, it's awesome. But a couple like main bullets that I'm pulling that just like kind of come to mind, were my coaches that I had a lot of different coaches. Actually, not really. I believe my first coach that I remember was Zoran, and one of the best guys ever. Like, he's amazing. He was my coach early on, and then I switched over to Laura, who was my coach. She was basically my coach for forever after that. But we would have like these British trainers come in. It was very weird. Like, I don't know if it was a normal thing, but the trainers would partner with our program and be like the second, the main. I don't know if they were the head coach, but like they would be like, I think it would be like we'd have like 3 practices a week, and they would do 1 or 2 of them, and it would basically just be like, I mean, they were like knowledgeable, but it was kind of just like, you have a British accent, so you're good at soccer kind of vibe, like a lot of the time. But I had some great ones. They were all funny. Like, the one that stands out the most for like the team environment was, we had this coach Joe who was awesome, and we had like a fully undefeated season. Like, we were in tip top shape. I don't know what year this was. Might have been like 7th grade or something. But it was just such a good team. Like, that one really stands out. Laura stands out because she was just an awesome coach for years and years. Like, she became like a second mother. Like, when I was playing soccer, like, she knew me so well. She knew the team so well. It was just, she was amazing. But yeah, and like all these lifelong friends that I had. I'm sure I'm forgetting some people, which is probably why it's bad to use names, because I don't want to leave anyone out. But anyone who's involved in my youth soccer experience was fantastic. Lots of years of success. I think that also played into loving it more, is our team was generally always very, very good. And it was the place that I felt confident. I think I didn't have a lot of, I mean, I feel like everyone when they're a kid, like, has like that like blind confidence that like is so awesome about kids. But seeing how like I was good at soccer came pretty naturally to me, and I was like fairly athletic, and I was always a little bit bigger, just like height wise, which helps, just in general. But yeah, it's like, it was a place I felt at home, and it was the only sport that I seriously played, from 5th grade until 8th. This is a topic that my mother would know better on, but I did have like one season where I was like, I'm done, but I was back the next day. As it is with kids, like, I had like my lacrosse phase where I did a camp for like a day, just like pulled up to the camp, and I was like, this is awful, and I am awful. And I think I hated it because it didn't come naturally to me, and also like, no hate to lacrosse, but like, soccer's so much better, as proven by every statistic known to man. But yeah, it definitely didn't come naturally to me. It is like, it's a sport that I feel like is hard to pick up, just obviously because like using the stick and stuff. But yeah, I hated it. This isn't really that important, but like, I think it can kind of be extrapolated to why I only do very few things at once. Like, I think it is an issue that I want to work on, but like, it's hard for me to do something when I know I'm bad at it, and I know I'm not performing well at it, and it doesn't come naturally to me. I think it was a sense of like a little bit of embarrassment. Like, I don't want to be bad at something, and when I know there's things that I'm good at, I'm just gonna kind of tend to lean towards them. But yeah, that's kind of my little short first section. Just youth soccer. I mean, youth soccer was awesome. There really aren't any complaints here. nothing really went wrong. So I guess I'll get into chapter 2, being my freshman year of high school. This was just full of excitement. I mean, high school soccer is just high school for every sport is just seen as so much different than those youth levels. There's cutting, there's like, oh my gosh, there's stress, there's tryouts. Like, I think tryouts was like the thing looming over everyone's heads. There was definitely some people were puking. It was like there's always like the nastiest day. It's like 98 degrees and the just beating sun on a turf field, like cooking, like nobody's got their hydration going on, like we don't know what we're doing. But yeah, tryouts were intense that first year. I remember very intimidating, confusing, because like I'm 14 and I'm seeing like seniors who are 18 who have like grown up, like who aren't me at 14, just shooting the ball so fast or so physical, like they're playing. It was intimidating, but it was awesome to see. And then I guess getting into those seniors, I think this was a huge part of my positive experience, that these seniors were fantastic. And I remember talking to one of them about like kind of like asking like, why are you so nice to us? Because like the general like way that it works is like it's like the seniors haze the freshmen, and like they're like, oh, like you have to do everything, like you suck, like shut up, like it that's like the vibe that a lot of like sports have, where it's like the senior to freshman dynamic. And they mentioned to us that they got bullied by their seniors in that typical fashion, and they hated it, and they wanted to do the opposite, and which kind of involved like hyping us up and being involved. They'd come to our JV games and root us on. Well, I guess spoiler, I did make JV. Woohoo. But yeah, I think another part that was good is my brother was the same class as them, so they all knew who I was. Like they were like a lot of my brother's friends, which was nice, and it kind of gave me like a little bit of a sense of security and like, I wasn't like, I don't think there was concerns about being cut or anything, but it was like, oh, like I know people, which was nice. But we had a coach who was his first time coaching. And this was just like a disaster. Like he was insane. He would show up to practices late a lot. I forget, like he might have been like working somewhere else, which is normal, but he would be just pulling up to practice like 20 minutes late, and we would just be doing like, we were like freshmen, like the sophomores on the team were like trying to like lead a practice or something. It would be like, it was so bad. And then he just had so much, like he was just a wacky coach, and he would just have like the worst tactics. And he would always wear this visor, and he was just goofy. But the pinnacle of him, his magnum opus, some would say, was he said he had to go to the DMV, and he would be like a little bit late to practice. Our practice was like 2.5 hours. Bro just did not even show up like at all. So we were just like stuck there, and the varsity coach just like didn't even acknowledge us. So we were just like scrimmaging and like running around being like, what are we doing? Like this was like only a couple weeks in. So then he kind of literally just like disappeared. Like he wasn't seen again. Like I think he was a coach, or he was a teacher at like the middle school also. No. The middle school, or like one of the other schools in the town. And then like apparently he just like stopped showing up there. And then like I remember like a couple months later, someone was like, hey, I went to a restaurant nearby and he was just working there. And I was like, what is happening? Like, did dude just like try to like wipe himself off the face of the earth, like go like incognito, but then like went to like a restaurant like one town over? But yeah, and then that led to, we had a gym teacher as our temp coach for one game, and it was like a tough team, and we got just rinsed. Like it was bad. It was a pouring game, disgusting. Everyone was like playing violent. I remember some kids were playing like Clash Royale on the bench. Like it was bad. And this guy had never coached soccer before. I think he had coached like women's basketball or something. So like obviously like same sport. So his skills fully transferred over, and he was just a fantastic coach who was actually, we got just rinsed. Like it was bad. And then we ended up getting, see, my timeline might not be great here, but I believe he was just like a very, very temp fill-in. And then we ended up getting another gym teacher who we all loved. And he was, I mean, he didn't really have a lot of soccer knowledge, but like he wanted to be there. The other coach was just like some old guy that was like, just did not care. Like he was just kind of forced to be there. This next guy, he was awesome. He didn't really know anything about soccer, so he would study. He would like try out tactics during the game. He had like the diamond midfield, and he was loving it. Like everyone loved him. He was passionate, just about coaching and about making sure we just had a good time. And then I don't really remember a lot else about that season that way, like just like coach wise, but like he was great. But then I guess the peak, or not the peak, but the worst part of all of this was, actually wait, I'll backtrack for a second. So, I was end of the season. I was pulled up to varsity, which was basically like it was so awkward. Like the coach, like just like gave me a nod, and one of the like captains of the team was just like, "All right, let's go." And I was like, "What is happening?" It was like the end of a practice, and I just like joined their stretching circle, and there was no formal announcement. It was just like people saw me, they're like, "Oh, hey, Trevor's here. Welcome." And I was like, "Oh, like all right, I guess I'm here." Being pulled with varsity was basically just like you practice with varsity, but like I was not touching the field. Like actually, well, it was me and two other guys who were freshmen, and when you get pulled up as a freshman, at least for that year, it was like you're not touching the field. Like they had like a solid team. Like everyone was like, they don't need me. It was more just like to get me that varsity experience and get me practicing with varsity. So then I'd be prepared for the next season. It's like, oh, like you have potential, whatever. But like getting pulled to varsity was like a dream come true. It was awesome. Like I get the uniform, I get to sit on the bench for the games, and I get to see the intense environment. But I remember there was one game, like it was a varsity game. I was sitting on the bench, and it was like the first time we got to go in, and we just got like yelled at by one of the dudes on the team. He's like, "Coach, why are you putting these dudes in? Like, what are you doing?" Like they were winning like 6-0, and like one of us missed a pass, and he was fuming. Like, dude was going crazy. But that was terrifying. Get it going in. But then a game later in the season, it was like I don't even know. End of the season, towards the end, I jump up for a header. I was playing striker, weirdly. Jump up for a header, and I don't really know what happened, but from what I've told, I got kind of nudged or shoved, probably intentionally shoved. And I landed, or then the next thing I knew, I opened my eyes, and there was just like everyone around me, like that like typical like movie scene where it's like you look up and just like, what is happening? Everyone's around me. So I got a concussion, or I got knocked out. It was a concussion. And then I like get like taken off the field, and then this is an away game, and the athletic trainer checks me out. Like my mom runs down, is like, "Oh my gosh," like blah blah blah, "Are you okay?" And then the athletic trainer checks me out, and he's like, "Yeah, he's fine." And my mom's like, "He got knocked out. Like he's not fine." I had a throbbing headache. I remember my mom called the coach, like my coach, the totally wrong name, and the dude was just so confused because he was like, Colombo, and he was like, "Who are you talking to?" Like, but then my mom, rightly so, because I wasn't feeling 100% at all, took me to the athletic trainer she drove me back to my high school, which I mean, it's only like 20 minutes, but she drove me back. The trainer was still there. She's like, "I need you to check him for a concussion." Instantly, he was like, "You have a concussion, but we'll go through the protocols." And he was like, "Yep, you have a concussion." So concussion life was it sucked, but it was kind of just like a minor headache for a long time, and I just obviously wasn't allowed to play sports at all. So it was, not to flex, but I didn't miss a day of school, which is kind of wild because like I probably could have gotten away with some missing school, but I kind of just lived life regular, except I just had a headache, and that was from I think October to like, I don't even know. I think it was like February. Like I literally got to the point. I think I had this moment with my mom where I was like, "Well, I guess I'm just gonna have a headache for my entire life forever, and it's gonna suck." And she was like, "Oh God, like this is bad." But I don't know. It just went away eventually. But it sucked. But I would still like go to the practices, and I would just like sit there and watch, or pull up to the games with some shades on and be like, "Yo, it's for the lights. Got a concussion." Um, but yeah, I think the lesson here was just like that I learned and just like observes like this was like just shit hitting the fan just over and over. But it was nothing was like that insane. I mean, the concussion sucked, but it was towards the end of the season. It wasn't a big deal. But I think it definitely struck some fear into me for the rest of my soccer career about like head injuries. But yeah, chapter 3, sophomore year. This was a big year. I believe there was like 13 seniors graduated that previous year. It was like 9 of the starting lineup or something. So obviously it was like a complete rebuild, and like we were not as good at all. Like they were a really good team. And I was a sophomore coming in, and I made varsity. I mean, I was already got pulled up the previous season, so it was kind of like a shoe-in. I was like, but I made varsity, and then me and my friend who had previously gotten pulled up the last year ended up being the 2 starting center back slots, which for people who don't watch soccer, I'm trying to think of a good comparison, but like center backs, and actually this is pretty crazy because our goalie was also a sophomore, so it was 3 of us on defense were sophomores and our goalie. The center backs in the goalie's position, at least for me as someone who's played soccer for a while, obviously not like professionally, but the goalie, to me, goalie is the hardest position. But then I would go, or at least the position with the most pressure. But then center backs need to be solid. They're extremely important. They're the centerpiece of the team, and like there's a lot of pressure. You're the one who's usually the last one between the play, like the ball and the goalie. Like you're the one who needs to be preventing people from scoring. You need to make big plays. You need to not foul people in key positions. And me and my friend ended up being the 2 starting center backs. Me and my friend Chris were the starting center backs, and yeah, it was weird. Like because we were like it just felt like we weren't supposed to be there. But I think we ended up playing like decently. We had won like our like crowning achievement that season was there's this town that we would always play who like every season was just like dominate us. Like they were the previous season state champs, and I remember we played them and we were expecting to get destroyed, and we ended up Chris, my friend, had an absolute just masterful performance on center back. Like we tied them 0-0. It was like they had shots on goal. Our goalie played great. It was a close game, but we got the 0-0 tie, which is like literally unheard of. And obviously, like I know, like you're probably thinking like 0-0 tie, like it's not a big deal, but this was huge for us. Like it kind of showed that we kind of knew what we were doing. And I remember when word got back to the previous year's seniors, they were like, "What? Like how?" Because yeah, it was just like, what is going on? But I guess well, this next point is kind of going a little bit back in time. But so my first official time, like I started in like a game, like our first game of the season, I felt awful like the entire day. Like stomach was hurting, like just like felt kind of gross and like super nervous. Like my stomach was butterflies. All through warm up, same thing. I was just like not making eye contact with anyone, like keeping my head down. Finally get on the field. I'm just like sitting there. I feel awful, like terrible. And then I just puke super hard. And I'm like, people next to me are like, what? Like, you okay? I'm like, yeah, fine. And yeah, that kind of became a routine of sorts. Nerves would murder me the entire day. Wasn't excited to play, but then I would kind of just puke, and then I'd be fine. Like I would like as soon as I like touch the ball once, or like I'm in one play, I'm fine, and the nerves are completely gone. So it was very weird, but it would be pretty like debilitating the entire day, which sucked, obviously. But yeah, like it was awful. Like I would be puking. I puked like basically every single game. This is a detail I don't really recall, but I'm pretty sure we didn't have like an official captain, which will become relevant in the next little chapter. But my lesson for this weird year was just like puking. I don't know, like I just was just a puke guy. Like every game, like warm ups, I'd be in a haze, rip a puke. and I'm good to go. Like my coach never even acknowledged it once. Most of the people on the team didn't even notice it because I would just kind of puke and then just kneaded into the turf with my cleats. It was nasty. But yeah, became a tradition. Next, I have my junior year. So the previous season, my coach ended up getting let go. For a lot of reasons. I mean, he kind of sucked. Like, he didn't really have any drive to want us to be that good. He was pretty just say that we suck. I remember one of his key quotes. So he said this was like, "You're the worst team I've ever had." I was like, nice. It's good to hear. But yeah, he got fired for some racist remarks as well. We'll just say that. Towards other teams, but not to them, but he would say them to us, and we were like, "What is going on?" I remember he was talking about gave us a political speech about immigrants, and I was like, this dude was an immigrant, and I was like, what is happening? He's anti-immigration. It's yeah, not even get into it. But yeah, junior year, so we got a new coach. He came in and he was it felt different. He was a intense guy. He was very involved. Totally different system. The previous year, that coach had played. Basically, we just had this one star player named Gio, who was ridiculously good. He scored 28 goals in the season. And he was a junior that year, so we had him for my junior year also. He was a year above me. But yeah, we called it Ted ball. We would just kick the ball up because Ted was our coach. Just kick the ball up to Gio, and Gio would just score literally 28 times. He's ridiculous. That was our tactic. So then my junior year, we enter a whole new system, a whole new style. This coach is much more intense. He's much more I'm not really sure the right word for him, but he was, I think intense is the word, honestly, much more proactive. He was in it. And then I think I moved positions up to center midfield. I think I played a little bit as center back, but it was mostly center midfield, which I do prefer as a position in general. I kind of always preferred it because I think it was a little bit more freedom, a little bit less pressure. But yeah, I think a key part of the season was the coach kind of comes in. He's like, "So you guys don't have a captain?" And we're like, "Yeah, no." And he kind of just expected someone to step up. I don't really know what got me to do this because I'm not a very proactive, vouching for myself and leadership kind of person up to this point. But I put my name in. I kind of just felt that I had to. I felt like it was the logical choice. I'm not sure how my teammates felt about that. But I put my name in. I was selected with a senior. The coach put immediate trust and responsibility onto me a lot. Every practice, every game would be talking with the other captain. He'd be asking our opinions on things. He'd want to meet with us in private, go over big issues with the team. It did feel good to have this leadership responsibility. It didn't feel stressful at that point. It was just kind of it was nice because I felt like I was a part of something, and I felt like I could help direct this team in a way. But just the style of this coach, I personally thought his coaching was great when it came to tactics and specifics. It was a very defensive style. It's in soccer, it's called parking the bus. I mean, it was basically just mega defense and get it up to our striker, who would also once again produce 25 goals. Still was puking basically every game. Day would be awful, because this is high school, so I would just be in class just the entire day, just feeling gross. But one of the funny puking incidents was at halftime. I had a red Gatorade. Worst decision of my life because I could barely keep stuff down at all. So literally second half starts and I instantly just puke up red Gatorade. And I remember someone, I mean, they thought it was blood. So they were someone was freaking out at the time. I was like, I'm fine, stop. But imagine you're sitting on the sideline, you just look out of the field and you're just or even you're a parent in the stands and you just see some dude puke up a ton of red. I'm like, oh my god. But yeah, never again. But I would say the highlight of this season was, so my coach had come from another program. He was assistant coach at another program. This powerhouse school in our conference. Like they would always dominate. And I could tell he wanted us to beat them, and like there was no chance. Like previous couple seasons, they'd beaten every team 6-0, destroyed, just crushed us. And but this season he was coming in and he was preparing us for like at least 2 weeks for just this game. He told us about every one of their players. He created. We didn't even play our own formation. We played anti them. It was crazy. He had our like best shit talker. Like he was a starter on the team, but he was our best like shit talker. He basically just told him to talk shit, and then I think he was man marking someone at some point. But then we had this one kid on our team who's ridiculously fast, extremely athletic, literally following their best player the entire game. Like he didn't even have a position; it was just follow this kid. And he built these tactics around everything. Like we should not have beaten them, but I remember my mom came to the game a little late. She told me the story after, and she was like, "We were up 1-0," and she was like asking the parents, like, is the scoreboard wrong, right? Like, cause like I had told her like we are getting destroyed. Like you don't even need to come to this game. Like, but yeah, we ended up winning 2-1. I had an assist, not to flex, but it was electric. And my coach didn't like to like brag or anything, but like that dude was hyped. Like, but he was like, "Yo, this is a business trip. Like, we're in and we're out. We took care of business." But dude was hyped. Like, we loved it. Like it was like winning the championship. But we every year we didn't perform very well, like playoff wise. I think we got eliminated in the first round again. But we had a banquet at the end of the year. I gave a speech. It was sad because I was saying goodbye to a lot of teammates that I've had for so long. The kids who were just a year above me, I'd been with them forever. Super close friends. But yeah, then, see, I'm not 100% sure on this timeline, but I'm pretty sure this is accurate. So that summer, I played in there's like a local summer league that's big in my town. And I was kind of the like managers. Like I created the team, and I made a lot of mistakes in this. This was a big learning lesson. But basically, like, imagine I'm the coach, I'm the captain, and I'm a player, and I'm the everything on the team. And we joined the elite division, which is the top division. There's rec, which is the lowest, intermediate, and then elite. And elite is like very competitive. Like it's a lot of like college players, like varsity players. Like these are intense games. And I was getting influenced also by my own high school coach, who was like kind of being like why are you making these decisions? Like what are you doing? Because we had some people, like 1 or 2 people who had already graduated on the team, like who had been from like a couple of years ago. And I was starting one of them because I knew he was a good player. And my coach was like, "Why are you starting? Like he's not on like the high school team. Like this won't help you guys." And I was like, "He's on the team. Like I want him to play." I also just like we had like way too many people on the team, so like we would literally be subbing like the entire team out. Like we had like 20 people. It was bad things done by me. But yeah, it was a lot of responsibility. It was so much pressure. It was an awful. We were getting torched, like destroyed every game. Like I think we had like 2 ties, and that was like we were like, all right, we're good. But I think this whole chapter was just like big lesson of leadership, and I like leadership, but I like leadership, but at a certain point, like I think when it got to the point of like coaching also, I was like, I don't want to do this. Like it was like for the summer league, I had to print out a sheet with the substitutions, and like I had to be taking out players that I knew shouldn't be going out because like I had to let everyone play. Like this isn't like if people are paying to join the team, like I'm not gonna be like, sorry, my best players play. Like I'm not doing that. But yeah, then we went to senior year. We had, there's obviously COVID going on, but luckily we still had a pretty regular season. It was a shorter season. But I think going into senior year, I was like, above all, I just wanted to be like the seniors that I had. I think they set such a great example. And we made sure to be all positive and great to our freshmen. It was awesome. Like, I'm friends with a lot of the people. Like, I'm just friendly. Like, I love seeing people who were my freshmen. They were the sophomores, like, everyone. Everybody was awesome on the team. But senior year, unfortunately, I was forced kind of back into that old position, that center back position. This time for sophomore year, I was in it because we didn't have anyone, or like it was just because our other center back had gotten injured. But this was because we needed the experience in the back with this coach. He put his priority on putting the best players on defense, which I 100% support. I think it's the best way of playing soccer, at least for the high school level. And we didn't have a striker. We didn't have like the same striker that we had the previous season. So we were struggling a little bit on the offensive department. But I had to play center back. It was whatever. I mean, it's not my favorite. It's high stress, but luckily we had a kid transfer in who was very, very good, very vocal. He filled the gap in my leadership, which I wasn't the most vocal player. Like I was communicating, but he's loud. He was screaming. Like literally the other teams would think he's a coach. He had like a leg sleeve. He had like a full beard, the deepest voice ever. Like it was so funny. He was awesome. Shout out Angelo. But I was initially like I was coming in because like the other captain from the previous season had graduated, so I was initially the sole captain. A lot of responsibility in the off season, which I didn't mind because I like the off field stuff. Like I loved it. I was fine with it. My coach would just like all throughout the summer would call me every once in a while, chat about something, chat about like how's the team doing? How's like have you talked to everyone? Have you guys been doing little practices? Blah blah blah. Like the captain's practice, like the unofficial little like getting people to play. I felt like I was a part of his coaching staff, which was nice. But then we had to get another captain. So they did interviews, blah, blah, blah. I was really just looking for someone who filled my weakness. And I think my weakness is I think I was a pretty, like I felt kind of like a role player a lot of the time where I would get my job done and I would do it well. But I wasn't a very inspirational player to watch. I don't know. I don't know if anyone who watched me play soccer can align with what I'm saying, because I don't know if this is the right way of saying it. But basically, the kid that we chose for captain, Nick, kid was just like so fun to watch. He was gritty. Watching him play made you want to play soccer. Like he gave it his all. But he wasn't into the off the field stuff as much. So I kind of was able to fill that role of like being a leader in practices, being a leader off the field. But then when it came to on the field, he was showing what he had. And I had my other center back being that kind of vocalizer. So I think these different pieces were really nice. The issue was that we probably had like 6 or 7 like solid like great like players that we knew would fill the role every single game, play the exact same very well. The rest, it was a little bit shaky sometimes, which is no fault of anyone. I mean, it was an experience that we had, and we just didn't have we weren't very deep. Like our goalie was a freshman, I think. That's just crazy. Yeah, and I mean, imagine that pressure. Like I was talking about myself as a freshman, like that was terrifying. And imagine being the goalie, like that's an important position. Like teams would, scout out, or teams would like know that he's a freshman. So it got to the point where my coach, super smart for this. This is it's next level. But at the beginning of every game for varsity, this was an awesome experience. They would always like announce your name, announce your year, be like, yeah, like get hype, national anthems, getting you fired up pregame. My coach started to tell the announcers that he was like a junior, just to be like so he wouldn't get targeted. Because like when we would hear freshman, I literally would be like, all right, that player's a freshman, we're going after him first. Like that's just like how you have to play. But yeah, like we worked together really well. Everything, the team was great. Our defense was fantastic. We were just rock solid, like best defense in the league. I think we let in like 8 goals in the season, but we also only scored like 7. Like it was a rough offensive season. But a big issue that kind of became a larger one. Well, that wasn't initially, but initially during tryouts, we had a lot of players. We had a lot of seniors coming, and we had a lot of seniors a couple of seniors that probably shouldn't have made the team. But my coach kind of felt he had to cater to the families. He was an intense guy, and he wished he would have wanted to cut like 7 people, but he felt that the program and the parents weren't weren't capable of that, or like just kind of couldn't handle that, which is fair. It was like we were a much softer program than what he would have wanted, but this kind of led to having a lot of seniors, and most of them just didn't play ever, which isn't the biggest deal ever. But when it got to like senior night, it was we were winning 1-0 towards the end of the game. Usually senior night you choose a shitty team to just like beat up so then you can just get the seniors rolling. But our lineup was probably like, I don't know, like 6 seniors or something. And we had like 8 on the bench. And this is the point, like a couple minutes left in the game, 2 minutes left in the game, you could have put some seniors in. My coach decides to sub in a freshman. The freshman was like great player, like he belonged in varsity. He had made some rotations in the season, but it was kind of like just like a punch in the face to any of all the seniors, because they were like all kind of hoping like, oh, can I get my couple minutes? No. And this led to a lot of guilt on my part, which I think I still haven't forgiven myself a little bit, because I feel really bad that, especially like one of my closest friends, like he was in that situation, and there was a lot more than one. It felt like political and gross why he wasn't like playing. But yeah, this just sucked. Like looking in the moment, I didn't really realize how bad it was, but looking back, like I still feel bad to this day a little bit about how I handled this. Like I should have been a little better. I should have been looking out a little bit more. I think I was too focused on the result of the game, which obviously is important, but I would have let them, like, even if the other team scored another goal, I would have let some of the boys come in, because it really doesn't matter. Like I would have wanted them to enjoy the night, because ended up a couple of the players quit after that. It was a whole shit show. But then I guess if we're going into more of a shit show, my coach. All right, so one of our later practices of the year, like second to last game, my coach trying to get us fired up for playoffs, because we're like barely on, like I think we're going to have a play-in game against our rivals. Like he's trying to get us fired up, and we had been like playing like garbage a little bit. So he rolls up to practice. He's intense. He's like, we're running scrimmages the entire time. Like he throws the entire varsity lineup on one team, and then he says to us, if you get scored on, you're not playing for the rest of the season. Like you're done. Like if you make a mistake, you suck, basically. So obviously it wasn't fair for the other teams, because like we were the starting varsity lineup, and we were playing for our spots. And so he has one team of all like the varsity backups, then one team of like the JV, and like 2 JV teams. We were just destroying the teams, like logically, but like it was also getting intense, because those guys were fighting to take our spots. It obviously, like there can be some competition within players on a team, but it was intense. It was violent. It was a harsh practice, and my coach was on our team for like kind of in and out. And there was a kid on the team who we did not like very much. And I don't have all the details, but basically my coach like body checked him, kind of like shoved him to the ground, and like did like that, like did like stepped over him, looked at him in disgust, called him some profanity. And this kid, I mean, I don't even need to get into all it, but basically my coach got fired for this, rightfully so. But it was a huge loss. Like he was a good coach tactically. I think off the field the program wasn't right for him, I would say. We weren't ready for an intense coach like that. I mean, some of us were ready. Like I loved it, but obviously like he liked me, so it was much easier for me. I know some people, like he had his people he liked, he has people he didn't like. But this was like kind of like a rupture in the team. It was awful. And this was right before playoffs. I wasn't very well equipped to deal with this. Like, this was like, I mean, I had no idea like what to do. It happened in front of all of us. Like the assistant coach and him were getting to a screaming match over it. It was bad. But yeah, that play-in game also, don't even like. I guess I'll get into it for a minute. But that game was like the most like. I'm not one to be like, this game is like not like fixed, but like the ref was terrible and was clearly a little bit of favoring, like, so for people who don't know soccer, I'm sure most people watching this probably know a little bit, but yellow card, first card, like, is like a warning, but like yellow cards, especially in high school, like they don't really give out cards unless it's really bad. So it was really surprising when the first half, kid on my team, run of the mill foul, my co-captain, run of the mill foul, like a little bit chippy, but like nothing insane, gets a yellow, and I'm trying to think. I think, or he gets the yellow. See, I don't might have all this right, but then I think early in the second half, there's another foul when the ref like calls and he's like, "Yo, ref, like what are you doing?" And the ref gives him a second yellow, gives him a red, sends him off. Literally unheard of. Like, you don't do that, especially in a high school game, especially in a playoff game. You don't send someone off for dissent. Like, that is crazy. We ended up losing like 3-2 on like a last minute. Like, it was a heartbreaker, but it made sense given my like the whole high school career of soccer. Kind of where it ended. But yeah, I was ending the season with major burnout. Like, I was ready to be done. It was too much. I say I ruled college out of the question for soccer, but like I was good enough to play in college. But still, I was kind of just like, I don't want to play anymore. My lessons I kind of learned from this. I feel like if for someone like me who like, I think I would be open to like being a coach in the future of like, oh, like if my kids are playing, blah blah blah, like local high school, like, you know, at the high school level, compassion is huge. You need to have compassion. It's important if you want to stick around. And then also some programs aren't ready for a monumental shift. I think our program was, we kind of got the uninvolved like coach to like this like extremely involved intense coach. So at this point I was like, I'm done with soccer. Like, I don't want to play anymore. Like, I'm done. Then I went to college. Played some rec soccer with my like housemates. One of the first nights of school, actually, we, like, the club team was playing, and they're like, people on the floor were like, "Yo, you want to come?" And a bunch of me and my friends just pulled up, and it was so fun. It was like a pouring out. We just like were playing like a crazy game. It was super fun. It was awesome. I think it reignited a little bit. It didn't get me enough to be like, I want to play club soccer, but I loved rec soccer. We played 3v3 intramural, and then we played outdoor. Outdoor was awesome. Like, I was playing much better. It was great. The indoor was nice too, but the competition was obviously much less because it's rec soccer. So it did help out. I think being one of the better players kind of helps for me just in general. I mean, it makes sense. Like, I like the better players on my team just because I mean, a lot of people hadn't played or hadn't played a really long time. And then we watched, me and all my friends were luckily soccer fans, so we started watching at school, the team. And we actually, like, we watched every game, and they won the championship, which was electric. Like, we rushed the field. We had our flags. Like, one kid on my floor had like made a flag, for the team, and then like when we sprinted on the field, he had the flag, and like he handed it to the team, and like they like planted it on the field, and it was electric. But yeah, and then I like ended up started watching a lot more just on TV soccer. Just like I hadn't really watched a lot before. Like, I knew soccer, like I knew players and stuff, but ended up watching a lot more, which is fun. But yeah, I mean, this whole chapter was just kind of like getting a little bit like my feet wet and being like, oh yeah, like this is fun. But then I didn't play organized again until the summer after my after my yeah, after my study abroad. I came back, and well, first of all, I didn't work out once during study abroad. Literally, like, not once remotely. Like, I just like kind of walked around, drank a ton of wine, ton of pasta. I was in Italy. A lot of alcohol, a lot of wine, a lot of pizza. Like, I came back much heavier than I'd ever been. I mean, I wasn't like super overweight, but like I was so out of shape. So I ended up just randomly on a whim kind of joining my brother's summer league team. We were in the intermediate division, second, like that second tier, which is kind of like an in between. Like, some people are ridiculous good and some people are like not that good. But I hadn't kicked a ball in months. I hadn't ran in months. I was slow. I was so bad. And the anxiety was also back. That puking, I missed so much. It was, yeah. I was like, I remember there was one game I literally like puked up an entire plate of rice and beans. Like I literally saw my dinner that I had just eaten. Luckily, I mean, I ended up kind of figuring out like I have to eat like 4 hours before the game at least. And but yeah, this was weird. It was a combination of like my brother and his friends, and then like one of the kid who was like the captain of the team was, he had like a couple of like his cousins and his cousins' friends and his like one of his siblings, and the dynamic was a lot of people I didn't know. But I was just kind of glad I wasn't the captain. I could just kind of show up, clock in, clock out, But this season was a shit show. Like it was bad. Started off with kid on our team like kept getting like called by the ref kept like calling him for fouls, or like wasn't calling when he was getting fouled, and he started screaming at the ref, like threatening him. It was bad. He was banned from the league after this game, which is important in the future. I might not have this exact timeline all right, but like I'm trying to think. Whatever. I'll jump into the most insane event ever. So this was a game. I don't know, like midway through the season or something. Our captain of the team, important because he was the captain, was, I guess, like him and another dude were like kind of like talking shit to each other, and the kid jumps him, like starts attacking him, and like punching him. It was bad, and it ends up being like a brawl. Obviously, I was not involved, but it was like a couple guys on our team, a couple guys on their team, were like fighting. But like this started from our captain getting jumped. Like he was getting beat up, and his cousin came to like help him. Like it was crazy. But this ended up with like the ref, the dude who was reffing this game was the commissioner of the league, and he just walked off the field. Like he just was like, I'm done. Obviously terrible. Like what has happened? I mean, I don't know. Maybe he was scared. Whatever. But shiver me didn't really get whatever. Our captain got banned after this game, which is kind of crazy because he got jumped. And he was fighting back because he was like genuinely like probably afraid of getting seriously hurt. But the issue here was that the captain and like one of his cousins and like one of his like sister were on the team, and at this point like we were like struggling for players heavily. There's also a rule where you need to have a certain amount of girls in the team. She was our only girl at that point, I think. It was bad, so we were really struggling for players. So a couple of guys on our team that we didn't know just kind of pulled some friends, and we didn't really ask questions, which is not legal in the league. You're not allowed to have random people join the team. They need to be registered, blah, blah, blah. But we literally, like, we didn't have anyone. We weren't going to be able to field a team for the league, and no one, like, it's not like we were pulling, like, professional players. Like, they were just, like, regular guys who were, like, decent at soccer. But this is part of the timeline, which I'm not sure if this event was before or after. I have this in the right order, but that same dude who had gotten banned at the beginning of the season comes back to play for a game, and I think he was friends with a couple guys on the team, and they didn't tell us, but he comes back and he doesn't say a word. We're like, what is he doing here? Like, he's banned. And they're like, no, he got unbanned. He talked to the commissioners, and like, well, hindsight, we probably should have been like, what? Like, that's what? How does that happen? But we were just like, all right, like, it's fine. And we just played. Like, I don't know, we just like believed them like a normal person would. And we didn't have a captain, so like we didn't really know. We didn't have someone like giving us the information, like, oh, what's happening to the league? But then we ended up beating whatever team that was. Like, we were a shitty team, so we beating anyone was nice. We beat the team. Then the league commissioner sees the banned player walking up the field, and he says to me, he's like, what are you doing? Like, why is he playing? And I was like, I don't know. Like, he said he was unbanned. I thought he was allowed to play. He's like, no, that's not true. Why would he ever do that? I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I just like believe people. I don't know. we were obviously like flabbergasted. We were like, what? Like, why would he do this to us? We were pissed at the league. We were pissed at him. And then the league reaches out to me because, I mean, I'm someone that they trust. I've grown up around these guys. They asked me, they're like, they basically, this is a direct quote actually, because I don't know, this has pissed me off so much, but they said, we will let you guys keep the win if you agree to tell me the truth about the game today. I emailed them back, tell them all the truth. They didn't even give us the win. Obviously, I don't care that much, but in the principle of it, they lied. We had no idea, blah, 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 all that. But this kind of was a little bit of like, I felt like I was being pulled in a little bit. Like, even when I wasn't the captain, I was kind of pulled in, and this caused anxiety, and it wasn't fun. And this is like, I was trying to get back into soccer and be like, oh, like having fun, and I don't know, it sucked. But then we were into the playoffs, and we're still using the same players. We don't have that band player anymore, but we have a couple guys who aren't actually signed up. Primarily, I think it was 2 guys, but 1 guy who had been playing for us that day. Then we beat the league commissioner's team in the playoffs. Important detail, the league commissioner's team. And then they find out one of our players wasn't signed up. Hadn't been an issue in the previous games, but obviously it was the playoffs. They don't want to lose, and it's kind of built to be like they're supposed to win. And they don't want to lose to the team that had a fight and had banned players and had red cards. And so they find out when our players wasn't signed up. They basically say, like, you lose. And I was like, yeah, that's unfair. I mean, it wasn't unfair. It wasn't as unfair as the previous stuff. It still makes sense. We had to play with him, or else we wouldn't have enough players. And, it's not like we could be like, oh, like, let's just grab another player. Like, we literally couldn't, or we wouldn't be able to field a team. And everyone hated us. No one really wanted to play for us, blah, blah, blah. This kind of just developed a hatred towards the league as a whole, just this whole debacle and everything. Like, I mean, I'd played in the league for years and years. This is I'd only really talked about it a couple times this episode, because obviously it's like a recreational league. It's supposed to be for fun. And I love what they're doing. Like, it's awesome to have like something like this available. Like, I think it's awesome having a league around. It's a little bit like, it gets a little shady in the sense of like, it's not it's not truly a fair and competitive league, because there's 2 commissioners that one of them always plays in the recreational division, and he wins it basically every year, because he just like, if someone's good on another team, he'll just like snag him and pull over to his team, or someone's good on another team and he'll be like, you can't play in this division, you have to play in the division up. Basically just stacks it so he wins, which, like, all right, whatever you need to do to stroke your ego, I don't care. But it just gets a little annoying, obviously, because like, I'd always been on the shitty teams. A lot of these teams were like, they've been together for like 8 years. Like, I was always just getting tossed on whatever team. Like, I didn't have the relationships like everyone else did, so it was hard. I was always on the bad teams, because basically just like, there's a solidified 3 teams that win the league every season, and there's like the garbage teams, and I was always on one of those garbage teams. But yeah, I mean, they change the rules every season. It's very, I don't know. I mean, I guess I've talked enough trash against them, but like, I like the format. I mean, I like the concept of a league like this. They don't do it well. End of story. Commissioners should not have teams in the league in general. At least they shouldn't be running the team that they're on. They should just be kind of on a random team. Like, imagine like a league commissioner had like a team that they're like, and they ref the games too. Like, it's a whole thing. Obviously, like, I know I'm sounding all serious, but like, I know this is all stupid. It doesn't matter. But this is all just tying into my story of soccer, and how this kind of ended with like just like a hatred. Like, I genuinely just hated soccer. I hated everything. I was like, this sucks. Like, why did I even play? Like, I was burnt out. I felt like I couldn't even have fun anymore. And this is the thing that gave me like joy for. It gave me joy for like 10 years plus, like 12 years, 13 years. Like, it was sad to kind of be like, is this the end of soccer for me? But I kind of felt like it was the right time. And obviously, like, I'm treating this like I'm like, I don't know, like I'm MJ retiring for that first time. I'm like, I'll be back. No, like, obviously I know this is just like, I'm a regular dude. I played soccer for fun, but it was saddening because it kind of ended on a bad note, and I wish it ended on a high. But now, like, my relationship with soccer, like, I just watch. I don't play any organized soccer. I haven't really even kicked a soccer ball, and I can't even remember how long. But yeah, I love soccer still. I love it as a spectator now. Like, when I was in Europe studying abroad, I watched games in person. In Florence, Fiorentina, the team that I was supporting. And I went to a ton of their games. Went to a Milan game. Went to a Fiorentina game. Went to a Barca game. Fiorentina was just awesome. Like, it felt like a homey vibe. The stadium was small. Tickets were cheap. Dudes would be ripping cigs and beers and cranking them, just getting destroyed on the sideline, yelling at everything in Italian. I had no idea what was happening, but like, felt like I was welcomed, and I was like, just anyone can be here, like any level of fan. It was an awesome environment. I really loved it. And I still watch them whenever I can. They've been breaking my heart these past couple seasons. They keep losing in the finals. But yeah, I guess getting towards that like little conclusion. Soccer it's huge for me. It's core to my identity. It's taught me so much. I'm grateful for all the things I've been able to pull from it. I think I still have a little bit of regrets when it comes to that senior night thing, and maybe wishing I took it a little bit in a different path. I don't know. Maybe wish I tried some more sports, but I mean, I'm glad I did stick with it. I think there's no point kind of being like, oh my gosh, I wish I changed this. I wish I changed this. I think it's just things I think about and like lessons that it taught me. It's taught me more than anything has ever taught me, because, I mean, to me, team sports are the best way to grow as a person, and it teaches you so much. But at a certain point, I kind of just had to let go of taking it seriously. I think it's hard for me because I tend to lock in on things and be like I'm the soccer guy. I only play soccer. Like, soccer is everything. Like, I need to always be playing. I need to be good at soccer. I need to, I don't know, impress people. And yeah, I think I just had to kind of let go, and I think it was hard, because I like I was talking about, like I tend to only be able to be passionate at one thing, like one thing at a time. I lock in on things, like have like these different kind of eras of. I mean, if you know me, you know I'll be obsessed with one thing for a while, then I'll be obsessed with something else, and I mean, I like that about myself. I think it's great, but I think soccer. It was a point where like I needed to realize that like I don't need to be the soccer guy. I can just enjoy watching it, and I mean, I'll play with friends like if I ever want. But yeah, I think I just kind of had to let it go. I think soccer. I'm definitely grateful. I'm grateful for everything that soccer's done for me. It's changed me, and I'm everything with soccer is really, there's so much. Like, obviously, like I've talked through this, and I don't know, like this whole episode concept was just me wanting to get stuff off my chest and talk stuff through. And I think some of these episodes are kind of just like for my massive fan base of family members who maybe don't know all these little details, and haven't seen that side of soccer from me, and don't know all the little ins and outs. And maybe this will be a talking point next time that I talk to them. And, maybe they'll know something more about me, and because I think maybe I haven't talked a lot about soccer when it got to the nitty gritty, just because it ended up being a big stressor. But yeah, to my millions of fans out there, thanks for listening to episode 2 of the Dead Soon podcast. I hope everyone is doing amazing. If you have any episode concepts or ideas or things you want to talk about with me, or you want to hop on for an episode, feel free to text me. And yeah, I guess I'll end this with, who knows when we'll be dead. And we'll figure this all out. So bye.